So you want to use a brush pen.
Illustrations by me.
I don't know why it's taken me so long to make this video. A lot of you have asked me and said, you know, I'm trying to use this brush pen, but I'm not really sure how it's working. And so I'm going to show you some of the common pitfalls that everybody's doing, and then just show you how I use a brush pen. And I'll show you the exact way, and just maybe some little pointers on how to get the best results, or at least the results that I get. Some of you are going to want to draw very nice smooth lines. I'll show you how to do that too. But to get what I do with it. There's a very simple, but there's still different way. There's a way you have to use it to get those results. Okay, why don't we get into it? Okay, so let me start off by saying that there's a lot of different kinds of brush pens. I just want to show you a few here. I try and zoom in a little bit so that you can see it, hopefully. And put a white background on the outside so you can maybe see that a little better. So, okay, so the first thing I want to say is this is hot pressed watercolor paper, so it's very smooth. There's not a lot of texture on here. This is a type of brush pen. I know they don't call it that, but that's what it kind of is. It's a brush pen. It's the PN, the Micron PN, and you can see there's a little bit of a kind of a felt tip sticking out, but there's plastic on the front, so there's only a little piece of felt sticking out of a piece of plastic. At least that's what I see, and you can get some thicker lines and some thinner lines here, but this is not really, I wouldn't consider this a brush pen, even though that's really what it is. I would consider this just a heavier mark pen, just a little bit more like a thicker fine liner paper, or pen. That's all I would consider that. Then you have these are the Tombow Furunosuke pens. That's how you say that in English. So these pens here, they have a hard and a soft. So I believe this one is the, yeah, so if it says here BS, that means brush soft. Oh, you can't see that. Okay, right there it says BS, that's brush soft, and then this one should say BH. Yeah, BH right there, and that's brush hard. But really, they have another, it looks just like the PN, but more plastic and more felt sticking out. So you can go ahead and draw a sharp line with it, or you can draw a thicker line with it. It bends. You can see that it'll bend a little bit there. The soft brush bends even more, so you can still get the fine lines, but it's easier to get that thicker line down. And these bend just very easily. Now this is the Faber-Castell Pitt Artist Pens. And they have brush pens also, and there's no plastic on this one. It's just a longer piece of felt. So you can, this is the soft brush. See, it says SB on the end there. So you can get a thin line, but if you're doing something you push a little bit harder, you're going to get a varied line weight just with the same stroke, because it's just that easy to bend that. Again, now if you use this on the side, you're going to get some pretty even inking marks, especially on this kind of paper. Here's another brush from, okay, this is a gray pen, but you get the same idea. But this one, it doesn't bend as much as the other one, so you don't get that much of a varied line. Of course, this was running dead, but yeah, you don't get as much of a varied line. It's a little bit stiffer of a pen. The Pigma BB, what they call, this is a big brush pen, so it's really thick, but again, it's just a solid piece of felt. So when you use it, you can get some thinner lines, or you can get like much thicker lines, almost like a real thick line. So you can vary your line weight there and get those kinds of lines if that's what you're looking to do. Same thing, if you use it on the side, you're going to get a lot of ink. It's just going to come off pretty even. This is the brush pen that I use for the loose watercolors that I do. This is a Pentel pocket brush pen, and if you see, you can see it splay there. The brushes, the bristles are independent. They're separate bristles. So when you push down on it, they fan out like a regular brush would. Okay, they're individual bristles. There's a ton of them. So that's important. Instead of getting my finger full of ink, I'm just going to show you on this water brush. So see how these spread apart here. I know it's a little out of focus because it's higher up. So, but anyway, you see how these kind of spread apart here? They're individual bristles. That's what this pen is. So that's how you get the rough kind of texture when you're doing something. You get it because the bristles are actually skipping and spreading across the page, and that's how you get that kind of technique. You can't really get that with the felts as much. That one a little bit maybe, but really nothing compared to this. Now the other thing you want to do is you want to move from this hot press paper over to some cold press paper. This is really what you want to use. You can see the texture on there for sure. So you want this to kind of scumble along and just barely separate on that page. And that's the kind of texture that I get. That's the kind of texture I get when I use this pen on the side like that. When I do something like this, I can get that texture in there, and then I can fill it in, make a couple parts a little bit darker, whatever, some shadows in there. And then when I let that dry, I can go back in with some watercolor and put it in there. Now this big brush, you might be able to get a little texture, I don't know, you can get a little bit. It's just much harder with the felt. It just lays in a lot of ink, and it's harder to get this kind of thing. This soft brush here, I don't think, let me see if I can, yep, there's some texture on here so you can get it a little bit, but it's harder to get. And really it's still pretty solid compared to this. So you want to use that brush pen on its side and get some texture, get a little bit more of what you're trying to get here. Let's see if I can show you a little demonstration with a little bit. I'm going to do a drawing of this, but I'm going to continue with a drawing further in this video. But I just wanted to show you how I get the texture is because the bristles separate. They spread out and they catch all those little grooves. Even when I go slow, I can get the texture because it's just the bristles grabbing, and you can see them start to separate. You see the bristles there. They separate as you're dragging along. So that's why you get that texture. It's actually, I have to pull down and push kind of hard to get that thick ink in there. Most of the time it's just very soft and it's very loose, and that's what I like. So that's how I get that texture. Just in case you were wondering, that's how it's done. And I know some of you had asked, and you were trying to do that with these felt pens, and there's probably some frustration on your end because you're looking at what I'm doing and saying, yeah, I'm holding the thing on the side too, and I can't get that texture. Well, it's because this is a bristle brush, and these are not bristle, they're felt tip pens. And so they're going to, even though they say brush pens on them, they're not actual brushes. They're just shaped in the form of a brush, but it's just a piece of felt. Alright, so I'm going to back up a little bit and I'm going to turn this into something and do a drawing. Well, at least that was the plan, but let me tell you what really happened here. This kind of deteriorated very quickly. I decided, after doing the drawing, the pen, I was very happy with the ink part of it. Everything went exactly how I wanted to, and then I saw this little cabin in there, and I started to develop the cabin a little bit, and it kind of in the woods, and then I do a little landscape thing, but then I started to use the watercolor. When I put in the watercolor, I noticed that there's some colors on this Holbein palette that I've never used, and some of them are they're opaque. They're very opaque, and you mix them with other colors, you make all the other colors opaque. So started out with a very light wash. It quickly got to an opaque mess, and so I was like, you know what, I've already done this, let me just soak it like crazy. And the goal of this then was to put the ink back on top. So I used the first round of ink kind of like an underpainting, kind of like you would if you had some pencil down. And then I put the watercolor on, and then I went over the top and kind of put the marks in that I wanted to finish with. And then I even used a white brush pen just to give it a little bit of flair, and said, look, this was a white pen video, a brush pen video. So I wanted to do a little something extra, and I used the white brush pen as well. Now, something about this white brush pen, I gotta tell you, when you use it, you click it, and then the ink comes. But sometimes after you've used it a couple times, the ink doesn't come right away. So you gotta twist it, and just let it sit for a minute. Then you see the ink start to ball up at the bottom of the brush, and you gotta wipe it off a little bit, and then you can start using it. And sometimes it keeps coming out, so you have to wipe it off a little bit and then use it. And then you use whatever you wiped off, and just kind of dab your brush pen in that ink and then continue to use it, so you don't have to keep clicking it and pushing out more ink. Anyway, here's the thing. I started to see that opaqueness and I got excited a little bit, and I said, you know, I've never really used opaque watercolor like this. I mean, I've used some opaque watercolor and I've definitely used gouache, but this is different. This is not gouache. And I have to say, this is the Legion paper, and it held up so well. I was very happy with this. You'll see how many layers I just dump on this thing with water every single time. A ton of water, a ton of ink, a ton of watercolor, and it just held up perfectly. I was very excited about that. Everything works so wonderfully. But I hope this answers some of the questions of how you use a brush pen with watercolor, and or just a brush pen in general. Normally I would do the brush pen thing and then I'd make it very abstract. This is technically an abstract kind of piece, but it's much different than any other abstract things I was doing. This is like an abstract landscape. I really put a lot of work into the sky. At the very end, I kind of add the highlights with the white pen in the sky too. But it worked very well. I was very happy with it. I hope you learned something. If you were struggling with how to use a brush pen, I hope that this showed you to use the bristle brush pen and use it with a little bit rougher paper, and you get that texture that you want. That was the whole goal of this. Everything else was just experimenting and having fun and having a blast, and I encourage you to do that as much as possible with every supply you have. And just to mention it, not because I'm trying to irritate anybody or make anyone pissed off, but just to point it out, this is a great example of how you should use black and white in watercolor all the time. I think it makes things pop when you have that stark contrast. I know a lot of people tell you don't ever use black and white. Now I'm using ink. I know I'm not using black and white watercolor, but if I would, this is exactly how I'd use it. I did that one where I showed you when I did the tree one. That abstract trees that I was doing a few videos ago, and I started using black watercolor, and then I would go in with a little. You can use black and white, and this is how I do it. And I also want to mention that I think, this is just my opinion, but I think abstract art is the best kind of art to practice no matter what your actual style is. You could do a realistic landscape, but just then take that and try turning it into an abstract painting or something, abstract drawing, and just do it, because it just opens up your creativity. You're just putting kind of marks and textures and form, and you're trying to work out compositions and things like that. Just try it. Just take anything that you normally draw, characters, or you draw, I don't know, you draw lemons. Some people are lemon portrait artists, and you can do that and then just draw it abstract. Do something very abstract and kind of make it look however you want. This is very abstract for a landscape. Most people want to put some detail in. I put almost no, it was no actual detail. I put a lot of marks in there that could be construed as detail, and in my mind I'm putting in detail, but really I'm just making marks on the page, and it just happens to be that it looks like a landscape. So I did some conscious things to make it look that way. I made the foreground green, then I painted the little shed in the woods or whatever, and then I painted the woods and made some clouds. But everything really is very abstract in this, and I think you should do that no matter what you're doing, no matter how much realism you're actually doing. Just take that same piece and try and do something abstract with it. It's one of the most exciting and fun things I've ever done with art, and I encourage other people to do it as well. So thumbs up the video if you either have a brush pen or you plan on buying one through my affiliate links down below, and you're going to try something like this. You're going to do something abstract, and I'm going to do a couple more abstract ones with the brush pen, which I've done several before, but I just love doing it. Not all landscapes, just some abstract pieces, and not really anything in particular, but I really enjoy doing that. I urge you to try it because it's fun. You put in little lines where you want to put in the lines. You can add a splash of color if you want to, or just leave it black and white. It doesn't really matter. You can do whatever you want to do, And I just enjoy it so much. I hope that you would also enjoy it and share your experience. Let me know if you do this. Just tell me. Say, look, I did this and this is the result. Or, hey, look, here's the picture. You can share it on the channel or you could share it on the website or whatever. And this is what I'm doing. And other people may get something out of it, and it's very important for other people to say, hey, I did it too, and maybe the first one isn't the best and the second one isn't the best, but the third one is probably not the best either, but it's getting better, and that's the point. It's just, you're just having fun, you're experimenting, and you're just doing art, and that's what it's all about. It's about having fun. Okay, so 2 things quickly before I end this. I just wanted to tell you there was one of the things is that I went to an art show. There was a little girl there. Her name was Haley. She was 11 years old. She had just started painting about 6 months before, and about a couple of weeks before the show, she started doing abstract art. So we bought a piece from her. And this is a really cool piece because you can see it kind of like if this was the like water and there's like a sunset coming in, it's reflecting off the water. You can see some buildings in the background, and then the light pollution from the buildings, a little bit lighter color. I think it looks really good. I really enjoy this piece. It's a very nice piece. So we wanted to get that for it, and I realized I may have come off a little bit creepy. I didn't mean to, but there was a woman there that was trying to talk to her about being her agent. She's 11 years old. She just started painting. She doesn't need an agent. But anyway, but what I said to, while I was talking to her mother, I didn't hear the other lady was doing that. So, but I was talking to her mother and I said, you know, I have a YouTube channel. I'd like to get her art up here. If you want to send some stuff, we'll put it up on the website. It's not, I may have been come off a little bit like I was kind of asking for money for these things rather than just, no, I'm just doing these things. I'd like to see her be encouraged and do more, and I want to get her art up somewhere so people can see it. She can see the comments on it and be encouraged about it. But I think it didn't come off that way. I have to watch the way I talk to people sometimes. So anyway, that was an experience. I hope that I hear from her. I just gave her my email. I didn't take anything from her and get her information, so I don't know if she's ever going to call me, but or email me. She can't call me through my email. But anyway, you know what I mean. So I don't know if that's going to happen. I hope so, because her art was nice. It was pretty. I didn't get a lot of it, but I did get some of it, and the ones that I got, I really enjoyed. And the other thing is, you know, my wife is wonderful. She bought me a birthday present, and this is the lens here that I'm using. It's a wonderful lens. It's beautiful. And I just want to know from your end, because it can do a little bit more than my other lens could. Are you trying to see that stuff back there? Do you care that that's blurry? Or should I bring it more into focus? I usually, see if I can do this while I am recording. Usually I'm right about there. Usually it's about there. It might be a little different because of the distance, different focusing distance and different overall field of view and things like that. But I am right about there. Usually I could go a little bit more. Like, well, maybe like there or something like that. Or do you care? Does it not even matter? There's just stuff in the background distracting you, but you're not trying to see it. You don't really care. And in which case, that's the opposite way. I shouldn't do that. In which case I could do something like that and you don't even care that you can't make out anything back there. Now there's some things back there from you guys, so I don't know if that's, maybe I should bring that back into focus, or maybe I should pick a middle ground somewhere right around there, something like that, so you could see it a little bit better. But it's not, it's just in the middle. But you let me know if you care, if this is even a thing for you. I'm trying to see it. It's hard to see in the camera itself, in the little monitor, so I don't know. It could be in better focus or not. But anyway, let me know what you want to do, if you even care, if you have an opinion at all. I know a lot of you watch till the end. I'm very grateful for that. You mentioned it. I mentioned it in a video and you said, yeah, I watched it till the end. That's wonderful. I appreciate you very much. All right. If you would like to join our community, go to illustrationsbypete.com. You can come in, you can put your own artwork on the site and promote it. You can find some inspiration in the free reference photos. You can just use them however you want in your artwork. You do not need to credit me. Or you can come into the forums and talk to some people and maybe give some advice and maybe find a little bit of information that helps you. So come check us out. All right, that's about it for me. I'm going to go. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.